Hello, divine beings. Today I tap in with you guys to have a really gorgeous conversation about technology, about VR and AR, more specifically the sexual side of situations, porn, sex dolls, sex toys, the whole world surrounding sex and technology. It's a really exciting time after the Meta Connect that took place earlier this month, October 2022, with the reveal of MetaQuest Pro and the AR prototypes that are developing at this time, along with what seemed to be quite a really basic Ray-Ban kind of immersion kind of experience through the glasses, but how that's going to advance in time. So what I want to do today is I'm going to combine my clairvoyance and entrepreneurial spirit with a little bit of an economic forecast, because I have done a little background on this, and then just tap in on some really key points that I think are really important for us to acknowledge moving forward as tech begins to evolve. From what I can really understand so far is that there is a lot of stuff on the market. There are VR sex toys. It is already a thing. A lot of different things for male and female that can stimulate you in regards to hardware, actual toys. So where the male masculine will insert his penis into the these kind of suction pumps that can be controlled by the other party from a distance. Really, you're using the app, you're using the software. That's one element of sex play. But what's also going on right now, and I guess it's spoken about a lot less, but it is nonetheless quite a large scale thing, is the VR chat space, where there is a mass amounts of sexual activity taking place in VR. And from my understanding, I'm not sure of the specific different toys or like immersion tools that you would strap to your waist and wrist and stuff like that. There's so many out there. I mean, you can go for just the headset, or you can go for something on your feet, something on your ankles, something on your wrist, something around your waist, to create all those different levels of stimulation. And I guess the more that you have, the more immersive it is. I find the immersive experience, immersive reality conversation really, really important for the future, because there is going to be a lot more conversation about preference. So for me, and what I see is, it's not only what is your sexual preference that has been a common conversation that we have in the 3D. I'm going to keep referring to the 3D reality as Earth and no technology, and then we'll refer to the VR space as the VR space. But in the 3D, when we're filling out forms and stuff like that, we are talking about what our sexual preferences is. Are you male? Are you female? What is your avatar showing up like? So what fascinates me about the VR chats and the sex that's taking place in those arenas is the fact that actually sometimes we don't know who's coming into the chat. The avatar could appear female but actually be male in the 3D. Those are things that the world is going to have to be really, really accepting of, because catfishing in VR is a thing, trolling in VR is a thing, crashers crashing the game, crashing the chat is also a thing. So it's really kind of an interesting time as Meta continue to evolve, and they've made it really clear to us that over the next few years they are pushing for more and more immersive technology, and how it's just going to filter into our realities. Now, I think it's gorgeous because the main thing that Mark Zuckerberg spoke about was really the kind of incorporation of home and work, the working environment. There was a lot heavy on work, okay, there was elements of gaming, but the main selling point for me, or for how it was being advertised from Meta, was we're looking at Microsoft immersion, we're looking at WhatsApp and the Facebooks and the Instagram and the stuff that's already there that we're using every day. And for everything we're going to need to get our jobs done, a lot of digital design, digital art, creating actual products. Like they showed how designers were using the software in VR to create trainers and design actual architecture and property, and it was just building it first in a VR space before bringing that alive. So there's so much gorgeous shifts there. But then we do have to look at the other side of the coin, and that is the sexual elements of all of this, because it's just fascinating to me. We could easily skirt over it and not make it a big topic, but it is becoming a bigger issue. I mean, sex runs the world. Now, I feel really dirty and naughty and inappropriate for saying that, because so many people would shy away from these kind of conversations. But why I think it is so important is because, firstly, this is coming out on the Hermitology channel, but I actually do run Hermitology. We are into tech, we are into well-being, we are into the betterment of humanity. So when we make all of those moves, we've got to understand where tech's going. Sex, sexualization of children, child abuse, issues online that we already face for young people: age restrictions, trolling, abuse, bullying, harassment, discrimination is all a thing. It's only going to be more magnified with the VR going up a notch. So I think it's really important that we actually confidently talk about sex at this time, because it's the only way we're going to be able to bring the key issues to the forefront, you know? So if you're a prude, it's really not going to be the time for you, because believe it or not, there are going to be some serious cases. For example, Roe v. Wade in the United States, how that was a major issue, and it was we had to dig into the Constitution around that and make decisions about whether or not that should be overturned, and now the states have the controls. Imagine what's going to happen when someone has been severely sexually abused or even raped in VR. I would openly say that from the background research I've already done, actually I know this to be true. There are articles out there that people have been sexually abused and raped in VR. And although it isn't the 3D reality, it is still a traumatic experience, and that isn't okay. Where is our well-being going to stand when that kind of stuff is happening? Not only that, I am aware that there are a range of sex dolls out there. I am disappointed at the amount of female sex dolls I see. I don't think there's enough male sex dolls on the market, and that the male women are not provided with enough masculine sex toys in regards to sex dolls specifically. But that's a personal preference and a conversation we will have later down the line. But there needs to be a lot more male sex dolls produced in a way that is more stimulating for the female. But I know that the market is dominantly men seeking that female stimulation, and the female sex dolls are stunning and gorgeous. We will also have more conversations down the line about sex bots and the VR sex bots, and the transition from sex doll to sex bot to VR operated sex bot doll. I don't know how we merge the two, but that's also a thing. But I did want to mention, and why we are digging into the sexual arena over here at Hermitology, and why it's a big part of our mission over the next decade really, is because we want sex to be safe and fun and enjoyable and immersive, and be able to advance in a way that is safe for the rest of the world. And it's not easy to bring up sex in context to other things going on around the world. For example, I am really coming from a background of education and children's rights, and every child matters, and the United Nations conventions of rights for the child, you know, all of that kind of stuff is what I'm experienced in. And my point being, I've seen so many sex dolls that, okay, they're anime-fied, but they look like children. They look young, they're small. The shape of the sex doll, the size of the sex doll, the facial expressions of the sex doll. I know everyone has fetishes out there, but it does make me somewhat uncomfortable, and I do think it is a fine line, and I do think it is a gateway towards stuff that we don't want to deal with. And I don't want to make this transmission super heavy about child abuse and stuff like that, but I mean, we've got to call a spade when we're having this conversation. And I do foresee a lot more issues around child protection online in relation to sex abuse, sex trafficking as well, and all of those issues, and how unfortunately they will seep into the VR AR spaces. And it's our responsibility as well, I feel it's my responsibility. It's not yours. I don't know where you're watching from or what you're into. Feel free to let me know in the descriptions what your interest is in this whole arena. But we're going to tap on that because safety is key here. And I want to talk a bit more about well-being. I want to talk about something that I've been kind of philosophizing myself, and we're going to produce some real safety around this for the VR community, which is something I'm calling lamppost syndrome at this time, okay? I am going to go back to catfishing and trolling and what it's going to be like to be having sex in VR when you don't really fully know if the person you're connecting with is male or female. And if you are straight and you are very uncomfortable with the idea of same-sex relationships and sexual activity, then you're going to have to be understanding of how that's going to change. For a period of time over the last 2 years, I've identified as non-binary. A massive part of that journey was for me to really understand the immersion of self in relation to tech, ecology and sociology, because actually when it comes to the avatar and it comes to the VR space, although we're showing up as male or female, fucking hell, we're showing up as a lamppost, we're showing up as glitches in the game, we're showing up as cars, and I mean, we've had a lot of GTA activity for a long time. I don't want to get you all lost, but I mean, there's been so much stuff we can do in like GTA when we're creating our own kind of realities in that, and we're just coding up our own programs and our own kind of GTA realities is the first kind of place I've seen all this happening, where we're turning GTA games into so many different other stuff and adding our own elements. And like, for example, this is the example I want to use, right, where, for example, in COD Black Ops in Nuketown, for example, where the you've got, when you kind of first start, you've got like that kind of van, the caravan that's kind of there, right, the massive van that you normally hide in. Someone kind of turned themselves into that caravan, placed them in the middle of the scene. They can't be shot, they can't be attacked. People are running in and out of them as a place to hide. No one is aware that they've just glitched the whole game and they are that caravan, right? So fair enough, that's an example in COD. That's not even VR. But in VR, right, if we're playing GTA in VR, for example, imagine the lamppost that's on the street is actually a person. Just choosing to stand there. Why they would choose to be a lamppost is beyond me, but this is the ideology that we're going with. And it's a situation of someone's going to be acting like a lamppost or acting like a petrol station, is also what I've seen, is, you know, this, when it talks about gas prices, someone was actually just running around the whole GTA game and COD game as a petrol station sign, random. But that's what also happens in VR when everyone's crashing the game and they're using what are we calling shaders and particles and stuff like that, and it's going to become more of a nightmare. And actually, when people are spending all their times in VR, for example, acting like a lamppost, and they're spending 24 hours acting like a lamppost, don't ask me why I'm using that as a context, as the example, but I am. There's people out there who like to do random stuff, and being a lamppost in the middle of a game on a street where other people think that it's just a lamppost in the game, but it's actually a real person in VR doing something potentially to you as well and inferring on the game. When people leave VR after a long period of time playing in the game, and if you're playing in there every single day, moreover, if you're working in there and you're making money, because Bitcoin and I think Binance is going to be a main wallet that you're going to start getting in these VR spaces. And when you start getting Binance kind of and wallets so accessible while you're walking down the street in GTA, and you're going to pull over and use your genuine wallet to buy something or give something to another, like you would buy coins or points in other games, but you through money still, like you would buy platinum on Reddit. Do you get what I mean? For those kind of examples, you'll be using coin for that in the future. So people will be spending more time on the game to pick up coin. People will lose coin like Sonic rings. So then, for example, you're playing like Sonic game, you're losing rings. People could actually lose real coins. Ready Player One is an incredible example of this stuff. And obviously it is a sci-fi kind of fantasy movie, but it has incredible context. And I do believe there is a number 2 on the way, actually. But the point with that, people are going to leave and people are going to start having serious psychological problems, because there is going to be a man out there one day who actually believes he is a lamppost because he has spent such a long time immersed in VR pretending to be a lamppost, because people always walk past that lamppost and drop coins without realizing it. There's a glitch in the game, right? You know, we're nerds out there. Some hacker out there is going to realize that every time someone steps over this point, they lose coin. And in a day, there's about 50 to 500 people that walk past here and trip on this little piece of cement and their coin drops out. So someone is going to pretend to be a lamppost, stand right there all day collecting coin. And after that, they're going to be wealthy and rich and abundant, but they're going to leave and come into their 3D reality thinking they're a lamppost. They're now going to need to go to therapy in 3D and talk to their therapist about the fact that they actually believe they're a lamppost. And actually sometimes they might go outside of their house in the 3D and just stand on the side of the road next to the zebra crossing or curb and just stand there acting like they're a lamppost. It sounds ludicrous, but this is reality, and that is the lamppost syndrome that I am proposing. Not only that, we're going to get spiders, and male and female is going to be played around with a lot more in VR. So much more non-binary identities are going to come through, because if you're a female acting like a male in VR, and you're taking on this masculine persona and voice, and we already know that in VR now, some players are masculine and they're showing up full on as feminine, and they have paid for high-tech voice generators or changers where they sound, you would not know for a second that is a man. So, people's ideologies around gay and straight and what you're personally comfortable with sexual preference-wise is going to change. The catfishing level that already takes place within VR is a big thing, right? And it's seen quite differently because, everyone is in avatar state and people are showing up as, spiders, as I said, rabbits, bunnies, bears. It's widespread. But there is a really important need to understand that well-being is going to be incredibly affected by all of this in time. And this is me really forecasting quite early on about my views around well-being and VR. But over the next few years, there's going to be VR addiction. There's going to be beautiful elements that I like to think that hermitology and the hermitologist, will be creating, and a big part of which is like VR immersion therapy, right? So what we're kind of looking at this time is how we can manage phobias using VR. I'm sure there's stuff like that already. We know there's a lot of stuff around heights. Yeah, and you can go in there and work through this stuff. There is a lot of nice therapeutic and therapy healing VR stuff, but that's going to amp up. And then virtual reality therapy sessions are going to become more of a thing. A lot of therapy in the 3D at this time after COVID is phone calls and no longer face-to-face sitting in the office. But that could be done through VR or AR, depending on how quickly the local community, government, and whoever's providing the therapy, how well they advance, and how well there are software out there that can be run through MetaQuest Pro and all of those kind of things, So that's a really gorgeous horizon as well, and the whole development of that and how that's going to spread out from Meta is highly significant here. And I know we're 18 minutes in and I haven't got too sexy and saucy with you guys, and that's interesting to me. Because I came here and I thought we was going to be having a really fruity, frisky conversation about porn and tech. But we've actually spoken about well-being. We've actually spoken quite a lot about child safety, around my current concerns, around sex dolls. And you know what I keep getting told by the divine is gateway drugs, gateway addictions, great gateway pedophilia. I've got to be honest, and I didn't think I was even going to bring up this kind of conversation on this platform. So wow, we are really hitting the nail on the head today and not sugarcoating anything. Because if you're already like me and you're very concerned about the dark web and the secret communities that already exist for pedophiles and child abusers and sex traffickers and all of the creeps out there doing things that they shouldn't, then we've really got to get our thinking hats on from now and really understand, well, this tech's already here. We've already had problems in the 3D. with www dot. Do you get what I mean? Web 2, Web 1 has really shown us how difficult and toxic the web can be. Everyone's screaming abuse at big tech, but big tech's doing whatever they can to control what has been created and what is the future and what is such a beautiful evolution. But protection and safety is needed 100%, you know? So it is really conversations more about the stuff that's out there that will lead to gateway addictions, gateway legal issues that are not okay. And how things like that will fall through the gaps. And to be honest, what I've also seen, I'm a big fan of Reddit. And feel free to go and check out, if you are into hentai boobies, meta sexual realities. I do have two Reddits. One's called Metacum, one is called Hentai Boobie Connoisseurs or Hentai Boobies, and you can go and check it out. There's loads of stuff coming there. There is comics also coming out, hentai comics, and there is also going to be hentai manga kind of animations coming out as well. But Hermitology can only move so fast, and we're trying to create everything at this time that is going to be immersive down the line, and more importantly is protected. Over 18s isn't the only issue here. Over 21s, or the right legal age across the globe for everyone to access this software, is just one of the many issues we face, because actually Reddit is becoming more and more consumed with users that, in my opinion, look underage. And that's a massive concern for me. Reddit is flooded with users that potentially are under the legal age to have sex and are putting up loads of posts of themselves, touching themselves, creating OnlyFans. And I know that OnlyFans requires identification and ID, but I feel Reddit doesn't. Reddit is not forcing users to legally identify their age, and I believe that the platform is flooded with underage sex at this time. And that's a concern for me also, because for anyone who is a creep, and they could easily go onto those platforms where it is poorly regulated at this time, because it is swarming with loads of what I would say are teenagers. And okay, everyone looks at different ages, but for me, there's too much what looks like teenagers on Reddit with their tits or their penis out. And that is a serious concern. If we've got this already going on, and we're not even capping that, we're not even monitoring that, I don't even know who's speaking about this on a more of a global scale, considering Reddit is a global piece of software. But if that's the case, then what's the future going to look like? How are we preventing this from the VR, AR space? Because then it's a real problem, because actually physical stimulation is real. And I've already told you that VR rape and sexual abuse is also a real thing, you know? So these are the main things that are kind of coming up. I haven't even had a chance to tap in with you guys and speak to you about the fun stuff, which is, for me, the sex toys that are coming out that are even more high level. And I spoke a little bit on it when I said the forecasts were coming, and I spoke a little bit about VR sex toys, AR sex toys, stuff that you could fully go inside of you, there's a lot of stuff that already exists, but the stuff that exists where you can actually see your insides, and instead of it, like, there's been these kind of mannequin images. I mean, the quality that we've been seeing so far is going to change immensely because of Meta. So all the Meta rooms, all of the Meta realities, all the stuff that's happening on Horizon, which is, from my understanding, more so of the work-based environment, more of that kind of clean-cut immersive experience or VR reality of working day-to-day life. Well, let's be honest, day-to-day life includes sex. None of us would be here without sex, because procreation leads to birth. Do you get what I mean? Let's keep it real. Sex keeps the world going round and round in regards to procreation, but the dirtiest, friskier, saucy elements are a whole nother side to the conundrum. So my point being with that is, the level of innovation is amazing for me, because we're looking at nipple I've already seen some bondage VR stuff, but we're looking like nipple clamps and clit stamps, like VR tools that you actually put on your clitoris, that you actually put on your nipples. VR cock rings. Do VR cock rings actually already exist? I haven't checked that, but it's those kind of stuff that would, in the United Kingdom, we have Ann Summers, which is one of our most famous kind of places, although Love Honey is now really well recognized online. But I mean, it's just really nice and exciting that this stuff's coming. And although VR chat and this private sex rooms and the naughty stuff that goes on there is kind of under the radar, it is going to be a full-on public industry, like we had Babe Station back in the day, like we have Pornhub now. I mean, who doesn't know about Pornhub? Do you get what I mean? That's what we're looking at for the future, and it is going to be a very clear, what do we want to say? A recognized stream that's not going to be ignored. Anytime, like, people would just go to Pornhub or go to this or go to that, and it's the normal thing. And that's what's going to happen with the VR spaces. So we have to make sure that the gateways are not, and the lines are not blurred. Also, I love hentai. Hentai is my preferred genre. But my concern with hentai also, especially after seeing the sex dolls that can claim to be somewhat anime or manga-ish, but they're showing up in a much smaller physique styles that doesn't look like a petite Asian lady. It looks like a child. I'm sorry. And that's a major red flag. So even with hentai and all the rape fetishes in hentai, because hentai is a little bit abuser heavy, I've got concerns around that being a gateway, you know? And so there's a really important grey area that we've really got to explore as anyone getting involved in this industry, or anyone wanting to partake and have fun with it, because we've got to make sure that it's safe for everyone, and that it's not perpetuating behaviours that are going to stimulate creeps and people that years from now are going to want to do more inappropriate stuff to inappropriate groups, or really act out their disturbing, deranged fetishes because it's been so freely accessible through VR and AR. When we talk about school shooters, when we talk about terrorist attacks, all of those kind of things there, they stem from somewhere. They stem from an ideology and a desire. So the fact that people can have all of these, I don't even just want to link it back to abuse and trafficking, but that's the key issue here, because we're talking about sex and porn in VR. But then we can also talk about terrorism and the different kind of games that are out there, and school shootings, stuff like all of those kind of stuff out there. The simulations that are going to be available in regards to gunplay and going to the gun range in VR, and the level of skills and hardware tech that you can get, like these actual replica guns, it's going to be so much easier to be a top shooter, or plot a high-ranking terror attack, or blow up, destroy a real world, because you're going to be able to run the simulations in VR. You want to rob a bank, you want to do this, you want to complete this heist. Imagine Money Heist. Before that was done, it was run in VR 4 or 5 times. They wouldn't have got it wrong. We wouldn't have a series. Obviously, it's not real, but I'm giving you an example to get what I mean. You could run simulations on how to rob this place or that place, how to attack this person. There's so much risk coming in with this. And yes, VR's out. Yes, all this stuff's happening. But where we're at now in Meta, over the next 10 years, the evolution's just going to spiral now. I love Mark Zuckerberg for what he has done and how he has changed the world, because it was going to happen one way or another. And that is the life choice that he has been given, and the legacy that is his. When he created Facebook, he was not expecting it to blow up and expand in the way in which he did. He's constantly trying to manage the overflow of his creation, and he's doing incredibly well at it again. But I would say, with this Meta Connect 2022, he's gone and done it again. The same thing he done when he initially created Facebook at university for a small group that spiraled out massively is exactly what that MetaConnect is. And the government, I would say, in the US are doing incredibly well at monitoring it, especially with their social media versus homeland, versus homeland security is what I say in regards to all of that, and getting the whole tech companies in. Also, the way they're working on crypto over there, incredible. The US, I'm really proud of the US and their ability to stay on top of it, because in the UK where I am, it's really disappointing. And we did have an AI robot go into the House of Lords to deliver some testimony, right? But I mean, we're still far behind. The right questions are not even being asked. I have spoken to the House of Lords about this. I have spoken to business, energy and industrial strategy about this as well. But we're still far behind. We are slowly getting there. But I mean, once again, with the developments of Meta, we are behind. We are behind with the safety precautions, the law, the legislation. I mean, the ARIA bill is in effect. Advanced Research Intelligence Agency within the United Kingdom is thankfully kind of in place, but I mean, that's still not even off the ground. And I've got real concerns about how that's even going to be initiated. So we are pushing. Hermitology is also pushing to have as much involvement as possible with ARIA over the next decade, and for the rest of our lives, to be honest, provided ARIA can be an inclusive research corporation that is non-departmental, then we can really move forward with that. But that's just me running an update for all of you guys and sharing what I can. I could go in so much more on hardware and the specific stuff that's going to be available, but I wouldn't bother. And to be honest, some of it I would like to save for myself, because when I do the background research, if it doesn't actually exist, then I would like to personally start investing in creating it, you know. I will say that what's really nice, and also I see coming in line with the sex stuff, is I spoke a little bit about sexual health. So sexual health checkups, they're currently being done at home. In the UK, you can get like a swab and stuff, and you send it back through post. I mean, that kind of stuff now can start taking place through devices. So you see how we had the COVID pandemic, and we had to take do the COVID tests and put the little drops onto the device. There will be machines, electronic devices where we could put our saliva on, our blood on, or this or that on, and it will be sent straight over to wherever it needs to, or the software will just run it straight away. So you could test yourself for AIDS, HIV, check your blood, standard blood test, urine, all of that stuff immediately on these the VR devices that will be coming out in the future, that will just do all of that for you as well. So I mean, the move for healthcare, and it basically, like for the UK, it'll be NHS in VR is going to be a humongous market as well. So that's super exciting. I mean, we've got years to go, but it's important that at least Hermitology come forward and start talking about all of this now, because I mean, we're aligning ourselves to kind of where we need to be to make sure that this goes down in such a beautiful way, and we want to be part of it, you know. So if you don't know much about Hermitology, please do go and look at the links in the description, check out what we're doing. We haven't dropped a quarterly report for Q3, because actually, if we're being totally honest, the data set that we're currently sitting on and all of our findings, they're humongous. Me as an entrepreneur, I never expected it. I never expected the corporation to take the shape it is now. It's really early days for Hermitology. We only rebranded last year, and since the rebrand and the development, we now have 5 strong departments of business. Wellbeing, which is our 3D focus. Solutions, which is very analytical, economic, mathematics and formula there. Then we've got the technology, which is going to be VR, AR heavy. Then we've also got the readings that actually do come out on this channel, and that's the Zodiac specific. That's just another way to incorporate well-being and spirituality into the grand scheme of things, and mindfulness mindfulness and VR. That's going to be all immersive at some point. And then we've also got our quarterly reports that do highlight what we're doing as a corporation, but more so provide perspective on the wider world and what we've seen from an economic standpoint. That is going to be somewhat of a predictive forecast for the next quarter, so we're shaping all of that. We're also trying to turn that all into digital content and not just a publication, and we're kind of torn at this time between how we want our publications to come out, especially in context to VR, YouTube, and the content we put out on YouTube, as well as just there's so many different industries that we're engaging with, and how best we can reach all industries through our channels. So that's being worked on. But the data set we have is so humongous at this time, and it's really taken the business to such a much larger global space that we're just hanging off. And we're gonna do a free Q4 loud pack is what I'm calling it, and it's going to be a tarot deck edition, where we really start just breaking everything down, and I can't even tell you the date that's going to be released, but as we get into the end of Q4 and into the new year, it's going to be so nice to share so much developments with you across all platforms. That will be Instagram, YouTube, multiple YouTubes. My personal YouTubes are Hermitologist, as well as my Instagram, but we have Hermitology Me on Instagram and YouTube, and we have Her Tech on Instagram and YouTube as well. And there's so much different stuff across all of those platforms that will be coming out, and I think that eventually the collective will find their way to what they're most interested in and what's most aligned to them, because we are covering the whole world and absolutely every industry for our approaches, and it's been such a difficult journey to immerse, should I say, well-being with education, understanding childcare and child development with human development, with technology, with VR, with AR, with the porn industry. I mean, you would never think that those things can go in the same sentence, and I've always been scared to even speak on it and address it, because it's like, what are you actually saying? How can that work? And what's so beautiful since we've gone through the rebrand and really sat with ourselves at Hermitology is, it's like, wow, when you're moving into areas of Web3 and blockchain technology, decentralized distributed ledger technology, right? I mean, it is all industries, it is all elements. There is nothing separating the two, and it's been a difficult journey to kind of go, wow, we've made it this far and we haven't even begun yet. And I feel like I say this every couple years. It's like, oh my God, we've come so far, but we're not even remotely where we need to be. Which is not true. We are in the now moment. We love Eckhart Tolle. And I'm going to leave it there because I'm ranting now, but I've had a really nice period of time to share some updates with you guys. And this was literally just the kind of tech side in regards to porn. This wasn't even about Meta specifically and their predictions. I got a lot of that coming. Not only that, I do have a lot more stuff around the kind of hentai comics coming out. We've got philosophy coming out around different fields of science, social interaction. There's so much more I want to speak about over 18s and elements around that. Not only that, I want to tap in specifically on the Congress, on government, UK Gov, European Commission, the United Nations, some extraterrestrial organisation and bodies, and the role that they're going to be playing significantly in VR, and the role of statelessness in VR as well is really important for us at this time. But that's all just extra bits and bobs. And if you are from the United Kingdom, because I'm focusing on the United Kingdom at this time, as that's where I'm from, I'm going to be having some economic forecasts that come out over here and on the Hermitology Me channel, where we look at what's going on economically, and we're looking at shops, we're looking at mergers, we're looking at financial forecasts, a lot of interesting stuff that I really want to break down for you guys, so that'll be awesome as well. And yeah, love and light to you guys. I hope you found benefit in this today. If you did, please hit the like, please do subscribe, and I'll be back soon with more. Feel free to share anything else in the comments. Bye.